to Southern Dirt Motorsports. We're at the Northville Vineyard once again, and I'm Randall Davis, and I've got Gary Lawrence and Mike Luna here to help me head this show up today. And we've got Randy Weaver back with us for a second session of his racing story, and we could probably do a dozen of them, but Randy's agreed to have another one with us today. So Randy, if you will, tell us where you're at with your racing career today and where you're headed with it, both you and your son.
Well, the main thing, I mean, I'm on the downhill side of mine, but Cameron, I tell you, like we said before, I've been fortunate enough to win a lot of big races that I only dreamed about going to. But when you start watching your kid race, you give everyone enough just to make sure they're safe first, and then to have success. And like I said before, when he outran me in that 10,000 win JT Kerr Memorial race a couple of years ago, I've never been so happy in my life to not win something, but just to watch his accomplishment. So I still race a little bit. I've been driving that CBR house car, the great car for Chip Vineyard. We've run 3 or 4 races, I think, and won a couple of them. But I just kind of doing it to get my fix, and then that way I at least kind of keep up with what goes on a little, and then my main goal is just basically watch Cameron, support him, and you know, if I can help in any way, I try. But he's got his own team, his own deal, so I get to just enjoy it and be as nervous as any dad in a grandstand.
It's a lot scarier watching it from a spectator point of view than it is actually being out there.
Oh yeah, I tell him all the time, watching him or let me be 5 wide and turn the lights out. I'd rather, he just makes me so nervous because I just know the racer that's in him, and you just always worry about him.
Well, he's already been successful even now. How many races did you say that?
I'm not sure really how many. It's several that he's won in just a short period of time. I know when he drove for me a couple of years ago, you know, he'd take, now this goes back to what I'm saying about how bad you want it and the way we used to have to work at it, but he would take 2 cars to the track. He would run his crate car and his limited car and win both races that night. So I told him that's kind of cheating on the victory tallies, because I never had a chance to run. Sometimes I couldn't run 2 in a month, full on 2 in the same night, and but he's done really well, and he's gaining on it, and he's running the super stuff now, and that's thrown him a little kink, because basically the crate motor's 440 horsepower and the supers are 900, so it's like having 2 motors under the hood.
Right.
But he's done good. He's set some fast times, been fastest in hot laps a few times, and he's running some of the hunt to front. And I was pretty proud of, especially after this last week, that when we went to Florida for the hunt to front and All-Tech Speedway, which is a big racetrack, used to be asphalt. He actually passed Scott Bloomquist to get in the show for the Lee Main that night. He had a flat in the heat and had to come from the back. I thought, man, that's something. Me and Scott used to race together, and then now to see my son actually get by him to go in the show, and Scott didn't make it. He didn't have a provisional or nothing that night. But then we come back the next night, and Scott ran second, and Cameron was like 12th, you know. So it all changes, but I thought that was really cool. And so he's in a whole different league now. He's in what I used to be all the time, and you're only as good as your last race. It ain't about what you used to do or could do. They want to know, and they'll forget that race by the time they get in the pits of the next one. So he's learning it, and that's the hardest part, honestly, to learn about that level, is how to take the good and the bad.
Randy, you've experienced racing from almost nothing to the top. You've seen racetracks make it. You've seen racetracks that didn't make it. And if you will share with us some of your own thoughts about some of the mistakes that racetracks may be making now, or some things they could try to make it better, or just your thoughts on racing, where it is, where it seems to be headed. And I'm really talking about the dirt track sector of it now, but both have the same, both asphalt, dirt. the same symptoms, it seems like.
Yeah, I think, I don't know why everybody makes it so difficult. I think there's some of it that's real easy. One, you are competing with time versus money versus interest. So I think any show should never be over 3.5 hours from start to finish. And that's usually when you're not trying to run 10 or 12 classes, which is ridiculous. And I think you need to come in and whatever classes you run, even if you have to rotate them every other week, one class has got their, say, big race or main event that night. Everybody else is a support class. Sometimes that'll be the grade, sometimes that'll be modified street or whatever they call them now, or front wheel drive. There's room for all of them, but not all of them at one night. And I don't know why. Well, I know why, but the problem is instead of marketing and getting out and pushing your product, the track's gonna try to make their money off the back gate, which is me, you, all the racers. And if we're gonna do that, we could meet up at my farm and everybody just pitch it in, winner take all, and put it on. So I've been aggravated with them a long time, and I've talked to a lot of different promoters, and some of them has took some advice, and I'm not saying I know all of it, but you can't tell me that if we's all gonna get in our truck right now and go watch a race, what would make us go out and go to Crossville versus go to I-75 versus going to Eldora? They've got to do some kind of survey or meet with the people or get an idea of what makes our interest go to them. And then if you don't have that interest, you got to go figure it out. Right. Is it because we don't run super late models? Is it because we can't afford to run super late models? It'd be so easy, and I'll try to get a few of them to sit down with me and just get me on a chalkboard. Let's list our top 5 problems, and then let's address that. And they could be 2 or 3 tiers to that. But if you go out there and keep people out all night, they're not going to come back. Then if they lose interest, they're not going to go nowhere else. And then what makes me want to come watch that race? Is it because I want to come see Michael and I'm just a neighbor that wants to keep up with him? Or is it because I really like that class he's in? And nobody will go deep enough to actually put something on paper and figure out why or what it takes. And I just think that's them dropping the ball. But I think they say, well, we can't afford to pay you guys anymore. Is that because we're all trying to live out of the back pig gate? I mean, it's just as crazy to me as when you go and sign in a race and they want you to pay for your transponder so they can score you. And I'm like, well, we bought our own transponder, I'm just sign it in. Well, no, I still got to charge you for it. I'm like, well, I've never seen Michael Jordan or LeBron James shoot a 3-point and run over at the score table and pay them to make sure you score me. They're the one putting on the show. Let everybody else market our show, which includes us, the racer, and then the fans will come. You gotta have that 3-piece of the pie to make the circle, but they never investigate nothing except the part. And we ain't got enough cars tonight. Why won't you guys support us? Well, then you roll in and the racetrack looks terrible. They ain't paying no money, and now you got 75 people in the grandstands. Well, what do you think's wrong with this? The racer done their part. Because we're there, our cars are prepared, we're ready to put on a show. But if you ain't told nobody, or if you just put it out on Facebook and they marketed or done your part, how are they gonna know that Michael is gonna be there, or whoever, Jonathan Davenport, or who? They just think they open the gates and it's automatically gonna come, but today we're competing about so much different stuff. Social media's got everything marketed so hard to go to movies, or go to concerts, to do whatever, or they just sit at home and watch it on TV. And that's great to keep the interest, but if you're close to a racetrack and you love racing, you need to go support that and get that whole experience. But you gotta also be affordable, time efficient, and a good show. I don't know why they try to make it so hard, but
back in our day, everybody in that grandstand pretty well was working class. So if you went to a race on Friday night, and more than likely, I had to work on Saturday, so I had to work at 6 o'clock the next morning. Wherever you was at, you had to be able to get home and get a little bit of sleep. And if you stayed out at a racetrack, they wasn't over with till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and then time you rode 2 hours trying to get back home, it was a miserable next day.
I always said, by the time you do driver's meeting, and I this new list track prep every time in between classes. Drives me crazy. Wait and start at 7 o'clock. Driver's meeting's at 6:30. 7 o'clock, the sun's starting to go down enough, so your track stays in good shape, and run straight through the night. They now want to start early. Then they got to stop and do track prep 2 times, at least 45 minutes a time. The next thing you know, now it's 11 o'clock. You ain't even started the main feature. So why kill it with the sun out and not just delay your start, and then it goes smoother? But if you start at 7, at 10:30 to 10:45, the last race should be done. Now, I understand sometimes you'll have a bad wreck, something will happen, a red flag, and it'll delay you. But every week it being midnight, 1 o'clock, there's places that's notorious for that. And I don't see how it can be that hard. But again, some of the tracks I know of, they'll try to run 9, 10 classes because they're trying to get that gate money to pay, but they ain't spend any money on radio advertising. They ain't got a billboard. My truck lot, I've got 2 billboards. It costs $14,000 a year. So what? It makes me money, or I wouldn't be doing that. So put some interest in what you're doing. And I've told a couple of guys, I'm like, if we worked on our cars like you guys do, trying to get your track ready and promoting us, you'd have a red flag because the driver and the seat fell out. It'd be something that bad because you just don't put any effort. And I'm all about supporting anybody that does effort. But when they don't do effort, it's hard to get me interested.
Randy, it's amazing that you'll watch track. It's like they're going out of their way to see themselves fail. Now, I appreciate you sharing this with us, and I hope some guys truly listen to it and take this as a constructive criticism. But there's something that I hope you'll share with us. You went through a really bad accident, and I know we all strap in these old cars or did. We know that it can happen. And I know you had a really bad one, and caused you some really problems, and I guess it made you decide whether you wanted to race or not, or continue. So would you share that with us, where it happened, what happened?
Well, it backs up a little bit there. When I was driving for Chipstone, and like I said, we was having a lot of success. I was the first driver that putting on one of the national touring series to be voted #1 in the country. When we went and ran those, when I won my Lucas race or whatever, I mean, we didn't dodge nobody. We just went to where the money was. And we just had a real good team and everything was going. Well, my dad passed away November 7th of 14 at 4:54 on a Friday evening. And at that time, I was ranked number 13 on the Dirt on Dirt list. And he said, man, before he passed, he said, I can't believe that, son. He said, it's hard to get on that list, the top 25. And I said, I know that I don't know if I were on there, but he said, I think you could be #1. I said, I don't know. I said, I'll try to. Well, he died the next week, and it was just something burning in me to do that. And so I lived at the shop. Now, we was always there a lot anyway, but I put extra emphasis on it, and so I done whatever it took. So we come back, we won all those races. We got to be the #1 in the country, and I missed a lot of things, like with my kids, the church, a lot of different things. And I don't know, I just kind of felt empty about it, and I was like, you know what? I said, Lord, whatever it is you got to do, get me back in line. Get me back in line. So fast forward, we go the very next week after I prayed that, we go to Boyd's, and I run second in the Lucas race. And the next night was a Lucas race at East Alabama, Phoenix City. And so we'd won down there quite a bit and liked that racetrack, but it rained all day. So they'd been out there grading the track and kind of had it pointed up on top where you kind of run your right rear right at the top. And we're in the race, had a chance to win this race, and lost the air, dropped the right rear over the track, and usually you just crawl on the throttle and it'll jump back in. Well, where they graded so much and made it such a point, part of the 4-bar bracket on the right rear grabbed that berm and flipped me 4, 5, 6 times barrel roll, and then right before you go off where the track was built up, so on the backside you're way up there. in, and then I went from nose to tail a few times up in the air and landed on the back. But I thought I was fine. Well, by the time I got back to the trailer, destroyed my car, broke it. I mean, it was bad. And so I get back to the trailer and I'm gonna watch the rest of the race. Well, next thing I know, like it was almost like that movie in Matrix. Like the walls is going in and out, and the floor is going up and down like waves. I was like, man, I don't feel good. So I laid down. I'd done refused the ambulance bill. Well, they had to come back and take me to Columbus, Georgia. I'm in there getting scans and MRI, all this stuff. And next morning, I kind of got feeling a little better. And of course, hadn't slept. We just all night running tests. And they said, well, your adrenaline bottomed out. I said, I never heard of that. I heard somebody's sugar bottomed out. I ain't heard nothing about that. Adrenaline. And they said, oh yeah. I said, it's bad. He said, but you're fine. I'm like, okay. So it was like in a Days of Thunder movie. I come walking out of the emergency room. My rig's parked right under where it said emergency parking. And I jerked the door open. All my crews in there, worried, waiting on them to sleep. I said, what you girls doing? Let's go home, we're ready to go. So I drive all the way back to Boyd's, about 6.5 hours down there. And when I was passing Boyd's, man, my head got hurting bad. I told Josh, I said, man, you gotta drive. I can't do it anymore. And so I get home and everything's good. Everybody calling, checking on me. Exactly 1 month later, I was out at the farm. We setting trusses on a new barn. They built me a new car, ready to go test and all this stuff. And I took a friend of mine out and his wife for his birthday. My wife was there, and all the noise chatter in that restaurant, man, I was like, what's going on? My head wasn't feeling good. And that feeling come back. And I don't know what it is or what it does. And I told Lisa, I said, hey, I'm in trouble. You gotta get me somewhere. And she said, I was this green color. Anyway, we leave there. Started for exactly that time. It was a year and a half before I was back right. 3 or 4 months of the worst time of my life. And they said you had this post-concussion syndrome. If you look it up, I had 99% of the symptoms. And I don't wish it on anybody because I could be telling myself I'm all right, and your brain just overrides you. It was bad enough that I traded around, done some work on my own car, and a guy traded me like a $4,500 camper. And I've been blessed. I had a nice house and all that, and I would sleep out in that camper. As dark as you could get it, and cold as you could get it, and as quiet as you could get it. The ceiling fans in my house, you didn't even hear them. They sounded like helicopters to me. I'd try to lay down with blinders on, earplugs and earmuffs. And I'd crawl to the bathroom and dry heave for hours. And I'd drink ginger ale, and I'd eat them little starter crackers in the soup. That was what I ate. And it got so bad that I'd get out of the camper, and I'd walk to the front porch, and I'd sit in the rocker or the swing and hope and pray that hurry up and get dark, and I'd go back to the camper. Done that for months. And I didn't trust myself. I wouldn't let myself around no guns. I mean, it was bad. And I just, finally, my wife come home one day. She'd been at a church event, and it's pouring rain, storming. My driveway's probably at that house was 150 feet. I'm out there just walking up and down the driveway. She said, what are you doing? I said, I'm absolutely about to go crazy. You've got to help me. And she loaded me up and took me to Vanderbilt. And my sister worked down there at that time in the burn unit. And she got me with ended up, I mean, the way God puts it together, the #1 neurologist in the state was there. And he got me on some different stuff. And it started a slow process, but it was forever before I'd even go back in the house. And one day I was out on the patio just laying in the swing and barely moving. Just trying to get my head on straight. My little girl Abby come out there and was sitting down on the concrete, just crisscross applesauce. She said, Dad, you're gonna be okay. Man, I don't know what it was, but it really made me happy because a lot of people count on me. And I said, I sure am. And I racetrack, they'd walk around, hey man, you doing good? I'm doing good. I'd have probably 50 Benadryl pills in my pocket because that's the only thing that could calm my mind down. And when I feel it coming, I'd eat them things like noodles. And that went on for a year and a half exactly to the month. I woke up and it just like turned that switch. And I was good. And I jumped back in a race car and set a couple of fast times, run like fourth, fifth, whatever. And just to prove to myself, nobody else, but just to me that I could still do it. And it's been pretty good ever since.
Well, Randy, I am proud for you, and I thank you for sharing that story with us, because you go to the races and you see wrecks happen. Most of the time everybody's okay, but that's a part of racing that everybody, or the racers themselves, knows can happen. They hope it don't, they don't dwell on it, but that possibility is always there. And I guess that's part of the lure that makes racers want to race too. That's part of it. Well, Randy, I thank you again for being here. Thank you for sharing the second episode with us. We'll probably need you to share some more with us, but thank you for being straight up and honest with us about the tracks and your personal stories. Just thank you for the guy that you are. It's good to be with you. Proud to meet you. And with that being said, thank all of you for watching. And again, remember the Northfield Vineyard, or any anniversaries, whatever you've got, birthdays, any kind of a memorable event that you'd like to have and you want to remember, always remember the Northfield Vineyard. Give them a call. You can do a lot with very little with them, and you will always remember. Thank you for watching.